Riviera Fireflies. Well, I've got a little surprise for you. At certain times of the year, I get really quite busy. We have the holiday camps, lots of children coming to Kidduland and to the Golden Tulip Hotel. And so I asked my friend Dawn Howard if she would be the guest host for this episode, and she said yes. Now, you may remember Dawn from an earlier episode. You can go back to episode 12 and hear all about Dawn and how she came to the Côte d'Azur and why she set up Dogs d'Azur. A long time ago, about 6 years ago, I left our little puppy dog, a little black Labrador, in a dog pension in Grasse. So a pension is slightly different from a kennel. This is where it's a family-run thing, and a part of the house was set aside for the animals, and they had access to a very good fenced garden. We did a trial afternoon, and we were told that everything was going to be absolutely fine. However, when we went away on holiday, we started getting texts from the person in this dog pension telling us that our puppy had chewed up the children's face mask beside the swimming pool and a flip-flop and other little things, and that she wanted to start medicating our dog using a choke collar. And anyway, they were not the kind of texts that you wanted to get while you were away on holiday. And I guess the bottom line was ultimately we chose the wrong dog care, but it was the perfect time for us to get in contact with Dawn and get her round to my house to train me and my family, because we had 2 young kids, so many different masters, if you like, in the house. And we just worked a bit better on connecting with our dog, and it gave us a lot more confidence in training our dog and ensuring that we got rid of all those naughty habits that actually I think Labradors tend to grow out of at about 3 to 4 years old, which was not something that we'd read about in the manuals beforehand. Now, you may know Dawn. She also has a regular spot on Riviera Radio where she's been focusing on the dogs in the rescue homes, or the refuges, as they're known here in France. And because of her and others that are locally reminding us of all these sad cases of the abandoned dogs, when we decided to go for dog number 2, we actually went to SOS Foyer Chien Âgé, and I'll put that link in the show notes. We actually got a bouncy 3-year-old dog from them, not an old dog. And again, Dawn came round, popped round to sort of see how the new dog and the old dogs could settle in together and to give us some tips on managing that, because it was a slightly different process. Hopefully I'll see you in Dogs d'Azur, Dawn's Facebook group. Until then, I will leave you with Dawn.
Having successfully launched 3 businesses, bilingual mum to 2 and entrepreneur Antonia Beauvoisin-Brown has connected with thousands of people, both French and international, since moving to the French Riviera. These connections allow her to speak to successful local businesses and inspirational people about life here on the Côte d'Azur and share it with you. Welcome to the Riviera Firefly podcast.
Hello Riviera Fireflies. Dawn Howard here, dog behaviourist from Dogs d'Azur. You may recognise my dulcet tones from Riviera Radio's Woofer of the Week, broadcast every Wednesday around 8:15. Now today, Antonia has asked me to share some of my top dog tips with you. So let's get straight to it. I'm often asked for simple health and first aid advice, so with that in mind, here's what you should be doing throughout the year to keep your dog in good shape. Keep in mind that no one knows your dog like you do, so it's important to keep an eye on them for signs of unusual behaviour, and for any niggles that persist, go straight to your vet without delay. Let's start with the bitey end then, the mouth. Do you clean your dog's teeth? Because you should do. You can buy a special toothbrush and toothpaste for this from your vet, and it's a great idea to start when they're puppies so they get used to it. Try to do this once a week. You can also use a cotton wool pad dipped in some salty water with the same brushing type motion. Problem symptoms to look out for are salivating or pawing at the mouth, or signs of pain while chewing, as well as bad breath, or maybe I should say worse than normal breath. It's a good idea to clean around your dog's eyes regularly too. How often will depend on breed. You can just take a piece of kitchen paper towel and wet it with some lukewarm water, and then ever so gently just clean the area. They do get used to this, but for anything more like matted or sticky eyes, or if you think that there's something in your dog's eye, a foreign body or something like that, then a trip to the vet is essential. Another very important check is your dog's ears. Regularly make sure nothing is lodged down there or that they're dirty. Again, this is one to start early while they're young, and your vet will love you as it will desensitise them. The dog, not the ears. It might take a few attempts at sitting calmly while soothing your pet before they allow you to brush anything away with a very soft tissue. But once again, do see the vet if the dog develops ear trouble, and you'd know that because he'd be shaking his head, scratching more than normal, or tilting his head. And chronic ear complaints can be very difficult to cure, so you really need to get to the vet and have some early treatment with that one. Now, at some point in your pet's life, you will more than likely have to give them medicine. Often the vet will give you an injection first, but then send you home with huge tablets to get into them over the following days. I've tried various things with different pets for this one. Sometimes you might be able to hide a tablet in a very small quantity of food first, then feed them the rest later. Or you may need to wrap it or hide it in a piece of meat, a little slice of ham or something like that. But don't forget, a cube of cheese can work really well too. Often the smellier the better, so keep that in mind. We are in France after all. I hope it never happens to you, but sometimes it's necessary to move an injured dog. In that instance, if there's been an accident or something like that, firstly move the dog away from any immediate danger. If you don't have something like a flat board to use as an emergency stretcher, and I've seen parcel shelf of a car being used for this, you can also use a towel, a blanket, or even a coat. Get another person to help you and get the dog onto the material while supporting it as much as possible, trying not to bend the spine, of course, and taking care to be really gentle. The dog will get treatment far more quickly if you can take it to the vet yourself rather than calling one out. And just to mention that the vets at Closon, which is between Valbonne and Antibes, are open 24/7. Again, when lifting the dog into the vehicle, if you can get someone to get in there first, they can get it a bit steady and make sure that your stretcher isn't being moved or jolted or bending the dog. That would be great. If the animal can't be moved or you need to call the emergency vet to your home at some point, the number is 0800 948 484 for the urgent vet service, and they come highly recommended. There are quite a few animal shelters in the Riviera Firefly area, but today I'd like to give a special shout out for the one in Antibes, along from Decathlon, called Jean Duflo. They do a truly sterling job, looking after as many cats and dogs as they possibly can all year round in all weather, and currently they are in need of a little bit more help. Just in case you're thinking, well, I'd love a dog, but my apartment's too small, or I work really long hours, I'm not really in the right place in my life right now. Worry not, there are other ways to help. One of which is donating. Not only clean blankets and bedding, no cushions please by the way, they also need tinned dog food, preferably Caesar Senior, gosh that's difficult to say, or Pedigree Chum, the one with the sauce. They also need medium-sized leads and collars, and washing up liquid, bin bags and sponges. These guys operate a great scheme too, whereby you can take your small change, all that annoying stuff that weighs down your wallet and makes it bulgy, as they have an arrangement with Leclerc. So why not gather up the whole family's loose change, or everyone at work, get a collection going, and then drop that off to them. They'd really be ever so grateful. And finally, you can become a sponsor for one of their animals for just €10 per month. That's the cost of about 2 cups of coffee, but it would make a tremendous difference to them. Details about this shelter will be in the show notes. Are you a bit confused about how often you should be giving what product to your dog? Well, broadly speaking, something like worming should be 4 times a year. Vaccinations is once a year. For fleas, dependent on the product, but most likely once a month. Leishmanios, from now to November, you need collars that last 5 months, or the product Advantix every 3 weeks. And for ticks, check that the flea or collar treatment doesn't already cover that. Of course, each dog is different, and due to overlapping health issues, their age or environment, so on, it's always best to check with your vet to make sure your pet is properly protected. Now on to toys. Working with dogs, I'm often in people's homes showing them how to do various things with their dogs, and one element of this is play. It's good for bonding with your dog, and often it can be used in training sessions too. Clients regularly ask me to recommend harder wearing toys that will last. I should just mention at this point that I am not sponsored, but clearly I should have bought shares in one particular company years ago. Silly me. Many of the supermarket or outlet places sell toys, not always cheaply, but they fall apart, they split, they tear, and generally they're just not up to the job. And that's why for the main part I recommend Kong bones, Kong wobblers, Kong tennis balls. All their stuff seems to really last. But do be warned, never leave your dog with a toy that has a squeak in it. Use it, play with it, but then pick it up, hide it, put it up high, save it for another day. As these ones can split and the dog can eat the material and the squeak, which results in a very costly and frankly unnecessary operation. If you have a young dog or a puppy and you are desperately trying to redirect those sharp pointy teeth, with a little nod to Blue Peter here, you can make your own toy. Take a grey cardboard egg box and put 1 or 2 dog treats where the eggs would have been. Close up the box and put this in your puppy's crate or somewhere you're happy for him to sit and tear the box apart. It'll keep his interest because of the smell, and they're far more interested in eating the treat than the cardboard. But if they do nibble a bit, it's not the end of the world. If you are the kind of firefly that is new to this area, then you may not know about the great places for you to walk or walk your dog locally. We're blessed with so many green spaces, and I personally think some of the best are, in no particular order, the Val Masque, which is an enormous forest between Mugin and Antibes. You've also got Camp Romain in the Loureret Châteauneuf area, the Bragg in Valbonne, and further afield over by Lake St. Cassian is super too. I've added a list of beaches also that allow dogs to my Dogs d'Azur Facebook page, and I'm afraid there are less than 10 along the whole coast, but there are a few more on the islands across from Cannes, so do take a look at that. And finally, the question I get asked the most: what are my top tips for having a well-behaved dog? So, make sure your dog gets the maximum amount of exercise. Walk as often as possible. Your dog will love you for it. Secondly, be consistent. Whatever it is, just stick to the same rule. It makes life very hard for your dog if everyone in a household allows different rules and behaviour. If you always say no to something, that's really clear cut. But if you sometimes say yes, then for your dog it's confusing. And frankly, it's worth a go. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my top tips. If you'd like to get in touch with me to find out more about dog training or dog behaviour, you can do so via my Dogs d'Azur Facebook page. And just to mention, there's also a Dogs d'Azur group that you can join for information, tips and advice on all things dog. So do feel free to become part of that too, Fireflies. Until next time, happy walking.
The Riviera Firefly podcast appreciates every contributor and listener. Your comments, likes and shares make us really happy and inspire us to keep doing the shows. Come join us in our free community groups on Facebook, Côte d'Azur Living, for all things south of France, and for those running a business, you need to join the Riviera Firefly Business Cocoon. It's totally free. The costs of producing and hosting this podcast are funded by Kidduland. Nicknamed by their clients the Little English School, they organise fun activities all in English for 0 to 16-year-olds, from baby clubs and playgroups to English lessons and holiday camps. They even hold workshops for adults too, right here on the Côte d'Azur. You can find out more about Kidduland directly on their website www.kidduland.com. So thanks for listening. Please do pay it forward and share an episode so we can spread the Côte d'Azur love. Until next time, Fireflies, au revoir!